Hey, how's it going? I'm Nick, and I'm the host of the Echo Academy podcast, a podcast where we share tools and strategies that help make your life better. In this episode, we talk to Bjorn Lee. Bjorn is the founder and CEO of Mindfi, a mental well-being platform for companies to help their employees reduce stress or increase their productivity. Today, I speak to Bjorn on why we willingly put ourselves in situations of distress, and more importantly, what we can do to manage it so that it doesn't affect our health. To find out more about Bjorn, his work, or this episode, check out echo.academy/Bjorn. That's ekho.academy/BJORN. So, without much further ado, here's my interview with Bjorn. So, you've done like multiple ventures, and I'm just curious, what compelled you to start Mindfi? And for our listeners who don't know what Mindfi is, maybe you can also explain a little bit about what it is.
Sure. So, Mindfi is pretty much my second or third tech startup. My first and second startup was pretty much started with the same team, and that was a startup that started by being a marketplace for freelancers, and then eventually we pivoted and moved to the Silicon Valley, and then we moved into the education tech space, and we sold the company after 3 years. Right. So this could be the second or third startup in the sense. So Mindfi is a B2B mental well-being platform. We actually provide mobile apps, analytics, and training for companies in mindfulness, leadership topics, pretty much any other topics that can help their employees to improve their productivity and reduce stress.
And what habits are you? Because it's predominantly mindfulness, but mindfulness, I guess, can be quite general in a sense. Even though it's a broad topic.
Yes.
What habits are you trying to change or cultivate through, practicing mindfulness through an app?
Yeah. The habits we are working on is simply stress management, right? Emotional intelligence are really important. With better stress management, you really know how to take care of yourself better. A lot of people are in very fast-paced, high-stress companies where you're very highly strung. You could develop anger management issues. I developed anger management issues in my previous company as well. Like you get really impatient, not just with other people, but with yourself, and that's the worst thing.
Yeah.
Right. So stress management is important because sometimes we spend so much time on our phones that you don't know how to disengage. You see an email, you want to try to get to inbox zero. It's impossible, but you still keep trying, right? Then after that, you think, I have too much emails on my inbox. Let me shift over to WhatsApp because I could be faster. And then you end up everybody on a WhatsApp, and then you don't know how to actually get to inbox zero on your WhatsApp.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That's impossible. Inbox zero for WhatsApp.
Exactly. Yeah. The other part is emotional intelligence, which is really key for managers or leaders, right?
Yeah.
Once you start working in a startup, like a tech company, or even pretty much any industry, right? You work hard, you eventually find yourself working with other team members. You will be leading projects, even if you are not officially given the title of a manager or a director and so on. Learning to develop empathy and understanding and trust within a team is very important. And these are soft skills that that you cannot learn in school. So what we have shifted to a lot in the past 1 year is meeting the demand in companies of helping them train better managers. How can we get people to behave like proper humans, where they don't give you unreasonable deadlines, where you know how to trust your colleagues, where you know how to manage people better by being more empathetic. That is a big part of emotional intelligence, which sometimes we just call leadership training.
Yeah. But it's interesting because it seems like from what you're saying, developing these ways to like reduce stress or developing empathy a lot of it seems to come with experience. And it sounds like, from how you say it, like you've learned it through experience. So I'm just curious, like, how do we increase the rate of learning so that we can pack in however many years of experience that you might have taken to learn these things to like a few weeks or months, so that your manager develops a bit
Yeah.
more empathy.
You're
Or
looking for a hack.
yeah, I mean, no, I'm not looking for a hack. I'm just curious of how it's possible, because
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
personally, I'm not even sure if it's
Yeah.
possible.
It can be a hack if you think of it that way,
Yeah.
right? But firstly, I must say that I'm still learning.
Yeah.
We are all still learning. I think it's important to keep that kind of growth mindset, right? Um, it is possible to find a shortcut to the entire process without the experience of actually managing teams. I mean, practicing some of these compassion-based meditation techniques could help you develop greater empathy for people around you that you can practice even though you have nobody reporting to you. Right. So some of these compassion exercises, like common humanity exercises, are actually super useful for somebody who is trying to learn how to manage a team better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not sure what that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting because, like, for me, I always feel like no matter how much I learn, like as okay, maybe I'm thinking specifically for empathy lah.
Yeah.
Developing empathy requires
It's very different from sympathy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's also it's also very different from learning how to, like, for example, um calm yourself down if you're feeling stressed. Because if you're stressed, you can put in the practice, or you can put in that certain things that help you kind of lower that stress level. But
Yeah.
it's empathy, right? You're trying to develop a feeling for someone else, and that it's, I don't know, it seems really hard if you're not, like, it seems something you can only develop over time, or
It's
based
harder. It's harder. But there are ways to actually do that actually. I mean, the example that I always like to give is that, well, maybe we should talk about what the difference of sympathy versus empathy is.
Sure.
In a nutshell, using simple layman language, sympathy is feeling sorry for another person, right? It's like, oh, you see a person who's homeless and you think, oh, I feel sorry for you. I wish that you can find a better home.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just very one way. Empathy is more two-way. You really put yourself into the shoes of that homeless person, and you try to imagine or feel what that person is going through. Maybe on a rainy day, you have no roof over your head. You have to go and find cardboard. You have to find a warm enough area. You have to fight for that area with somebody else so that you can stay there. You got to wake up early enough so that you don't get kicked out by police or get arrested.
Yeah.
It's that's empathy. You have to deal with the negative emotions part first. It's not as simple as sympathy, whereby you just it's just general, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
Right? Empathy is that you have to really feel the pain first.
Yeah.
Then later you go to the all part. And then when you do the all part of actually developing compassion, or you understand first, then you still want to give love and kindness to that person.
Right.
Most people find that very hard because it's very two-way. You enter the person's shoes first, then you still wish the person well.
Yeah.
That's harder. That is empathy, right? So similarly, if you want to do such a practice as well, no matter which country you're listening to this podcast from, and you can just go to the poorest part of your city, right? Whether it's the poorer area, ghetto, or the poorer area where people actually live.
Yeah.
Just take a walk down, right? If it doesn't feel safe, then maybe you just want to go in the daytime.
Yeah.
But go down and ask yourself, at first you will just develop sympathy. It's like, oh wow, I don't think I can live like that, but I wish you well. I hope that you try to send positive vibes. That's very one way. That's sympathy.
Yeah.
Right? Empathy is trying to imagine yourself living there.
Yeah.
That person, name that person, like Joe or Jane, whichever you want. And then imagine yourself living there, right? Try to, live with that feeling for maybe a few minutes if you can. And then after that, try to still wish that person well. Right? That's the difference between sympathy and empathy.
Yeah.
Very quickly, right?
Yeah.
It's not a proper exercise by itself, but it's a way to experience the difference between sympathy versus empathy.
Yeah. So in that sense, I mean, and I guess we can go back to, your startup days, and also now, because you're in mindfulness, if we were to just focus on the startup scene, right? What makes, the startup scene such a pressure cooker that people are always feeling stressed? And I notice like when you're in a startup, sometimes, management also they don't really have that level of empathy for people below, because I think they are in their mind, they have a goal, like, they're trying to get acquired, or they're trying to, reach a certain valuation for their investors, etc. So I don't know what makes the startup like that, create that kind of environment where it's high stress, there's lack of compassion for others, etc.
Now I'm just wondering whether I'm a good leader too. Like I may be more aware.
Well, I guess it's always good to reflect, but I
I think I
mean,
can always improve. That's for sure.
yeah, we can
Yeah.
always, yeah.
I think the definition of what a startup is versus a normal business is that, simply put, you are trying to compress your growth into a shorter time than a normal business. That's the definition of a startup, right?
Mhm.
You want to grow your company 2x. A normal business may take 5 years, 10 years to do that.
Yeah.
But you're trying to do that maybe say in 1 year, right? So with that, you do need people to put in a little bit of extraordinary, superhuman kind of efforts. Think more creatively how you're going to get there on less resources, or you overclock your hours in order to get there.
Yeah.
And when that kind of goal, which is higher because it's actually compressed within a shorter time period, is put on humans who have a natural limit towards their waking hours and their creativity and intelligence and awake hours where they actually perform properly,
Yeah.
you're asking people to overreach beyond their normal limits.
Yeah.
You can do that for a short time, right? But do that over a prolonged period of time and you will find people burning out,
Yeah.
right? Different people have different burnout limits. Some people can burn out only after 10 years. Some people can burn out within, say, 6 months, right? Or even 1 month.
Yeah.
So sometimes you go into overdrive. You try to find ways to compensate, providing a great culture, giving people perks and privileges. It's that it depends on how you inspire passion or hunger. Yeah. It's not a life for everyone for sure. Right?
Yeah.
It's only if you truly believe in it. So you got to pick your battles and not think that startup is that you pick is just industry agnostic. If you don't feel for that particular industry, and let's say you go into an e-commerce type of industry, and then you don't actually enjoy the consumerism trend, you don't actually buy so much every day, and you're just trying to force yourself to get a job, and then you are trying to make people buy more and shop for the latest trends and so on. You don't really care about trends. Then you're in trouble,
Yeah.
right? Versus, say, for example, you are really passionate about transport. You want to make it easy for people to commute from far-flung areas of a city into the inner city, and then you really feel for it. Then you join a startup that's actually trying to, make that transport situation better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's alignment between your passion and your career.
So how would you know if you can, what type of personality do you look for in someone you hire that allows them for that the person that you hire has a sustainable or some form of longevity in a startup?
Yeah. Passion and speed of learning are two key things I hire for.
Yeah.
They must have a prior interest in the industry that I'm in, right? So whether that's personal, in fact, the more personal it is, the better. Right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to give manufactured answers during an interview that they are trained to do so because they are experienced in work or they learned that in the school, right?
Yeah.
So passion is definitely something that you cannot fake, right? Well, what do you do outside of work? Like how much do you know about this particular industry, right? Tell me whether there's something like, for example, let's say you run a farming startup. You want to ask a person how much do they know about plants, right? Do you
Yeah.
know the right kind of chemistry required for soil to be fertile, and so on? And then they tell you that, oh, actually, I don't know. I know everything through a book.
Yeah.
I don't have. Do you have any kind of like setup at home? Same thing for engineering, right? You want to ask whether this person is good in engineering. You want to ask them about a personal pet projects. Oh, what is something that you did for fun recently? This person is able to tell you maybe they made a Sudoku machine that actually wins all the time and so on. You're like, oh wow, this guy in his free time is doing something technical as well. That's good, right? Versus,
Yeah.
I don't know, everything I spend on everything I do is done at work, so I don't have a portfolio to show you. Or that's an indicator of something wrong, right? So passion is super important, and speed of learning as well, right?
Yeah.
If somebody is really passionate in a particular topic or function, they will spend some time outside of work doing that.
Yeah.
Example, design. If a person loves design, right, they may be doing software user experience design for you, but they could be interested in other facets of design. For example, they may want to know how to design a better airplane, right? Like paper
Yeah.
airplane, right? So like that's what we did in my previous company in Zendesk, right? Where all these designers are designing software, but in their free time, like they have this thing called Creative Fridays. They're designing better airplanes. They are trying out, googling different ways to fold better airplanes for better aerodynamism. Another week, they are doing something like making better terrariums. Like when I first saw that, I was like, what the hell are you trying to do designing better terrariums? How does having a mushroom house in this terrarium improve you, right? Oh, that was
Yeah.
me being close-minded. It was like
Yeah.
after that, I found that this really exercises your creativity, the creative muscle in your brain. So,
Yeah. But that's interesting. And when you said speed of learning, I remember one of the interviews that Vinod Khosla gave at Y
uh,
Combinator,
yeah.
and he was saying like whenever he hires for the company or when he looks for founders, he says like experience doesn't matter as much compared to
Yeah,
rate
no
of
way.
learning.
Exactly.
And for me that was also a wake up call, because it also, for me, it encourages me, right? Or I think it should encourage anyone, because then you realize that who cares if you're inexperienced,
Yeah.
as long as you're willing to put in the work, really the sky's the limit for
An
you.
outsider mindset is actually sometimes more valuable than a lot of people think, as
Yeah.
long as you do not bring any preconceived bias into the new industry or topic.
Yeah. So how do you protect someone like that? Okay, so let's say he or she is passionate, has a great speed of learning. How do you protect someone like that from themselves where they don't burn out? So you make sure they don't burn out too quickly and they don't get too stressed, so that you can make sure that they at least have a great time at your company and can deliver,
I'm still learning, man. I mean, sometimes you really do need to get them outside of their passion, because passion sometimes burns you,
it does.
right? I think you definitely seem to like appreciate that statement as well. Passion tend to burn you out. Um, it's you do have to get them to like go outside their comfort. I mean, go outside their normal job scope and learn to relax and do something else slightly different,
Yeah.
right? I'm still learning that as well. Like some of our employees are really passionate, but it's important not to make them flame out, right? A lot of
Yeah.
the mindfulness trainers I work with, they're very passionate about helping their students and or their clients learn about mindfulness, but sometimes they can do too much, strive too much, and so it's important to take care of themselves. The most important thing for me as well is to take care of myself first, right? I'm always
True.
reminded of, like on an airplane, you put on the oxygen mask on yourself, and before you go and help others.
Well, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw it somewhere. And I thought that was brilliant, because I get reminded of that all the time on the planes when I pay attention to the safety message, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it'll be before we get to sit on the airplane again to fly somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Like who knows, right? But I think it's important to remind people that sometimes you got to take care of yourself first, because if you want to be empathetic and remind people not to overclock their own body energy, their mental energy,
Yeah.
you got to take care of yourself first and make sure you don't burn out first.
Yeah, it's so true. I one of my guests in the previous episodes, she said it in passing, and I wish it was recorded in the podcast. But essentially, she said that passion is infinite, but energy is not.
Yeah.
And
It's a great quote.
yeah, I think it's so true, right? Like, because like we think, because we are so passionate, we're like, all right, man, let's. What do you want me to do? But then
Yeah,
after a while, at like 11 p.m., you're like,
I'm gonna steal her line.
yeah, you should. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful
I'll attribute
quote.
it to you now.
No,
Maybe
no,
you
no,
can
no.
tell me her
Yeah,
name later.
I'll tell you her name. Yeah, better attribute to the right person. I don't think I'm that brilliant to think of that, but she, like, that quote for me, it has stuck with me till, like, I mean, this day, because it's such a true definition of like anything we do. Because so, I mean, now everyone is trying to ride the passion train, right? Everyone is saying like follow your passion, and that's all well and good. But I think because we live in a very competitive, dare I say, capitalistic society, we really run our passion to the ground. And because of that, so many people burn out, so many people are stressed. You see many people take their own lives as a result of it.
Mm,
So I think for me, that hit home because I think that was mental health is something that's like super close to me.
mm.
So I guess that's my long way of like asking you, like, how do you personally, I mean, you touched upon it a little, but what are things you've learned from, you mentioned how you were angry in the past, how you get really stressed out. How do you deal with those things now?
Yeah, I do still get angry now. Yeah,
Okay.
it is important. I think I learned to hide it slightly better than before.
Okay, so you mask it.
Right. I
Yeah.
mask it or I know some coping techniques, but I still do get angry. Right.
Yeah.
It's like that Incredible Hulk, right? He's angry all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
He just
Okay.
hides it better now. Did
Yeah,
you say
yeah,
that?
yeah. Got it, got it.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean like we fundamentally, intrinsically, we don't change our personality.
That's true.
So if I was an impatient person in the past, I'm still an impatient person now.
Hmm.
But it's just that maybe with age, with experience, you mellow or you learn new tricks and
Yeah.
skills to manage that better.
Got it.
For me these days, I work quite differently, right? I know how and when to say no. I say no more often, and I know to say them early as well. And I can detect when something is in overdrive, and I can learn to put things away.
What's an example of saying no and saying no early? I don't quite understand that.
So so one example is my phone.
Yeah.
I'm on do not disturb all the time. I only turn off to DND mode when I'm expecting a call. So let's say, for example, you tell me in the morning that, hey, you're going to call me at 6 p.m. for this interview, and I will be setting a reminder, like specifically a Siri, set at 5:30 p.m. reminder, and I'll turn on my DND mode.
Yeah.
So then I'm saying no to all the other people that call me.
Mm.
I had 2 missed calls today. Somebody called me twice, but then
Yeah.
I didn't pick it up. So I learned better to say no. Another example is that I only check my email twice a day. I don't check it constantly throughout the day, which explains why I'm not at inbox zero. But I learned to accept that,
Yeah.
right? I'm at WhatsApp. I'm not at inbox zero as well, but I only check it maybe say twice a day. Okay, I check my WhatsApp way more, 5 times a day.
Okay.
Right? But when I'm overwhelmed and I see so many messages, I just swipe up and everything disappears. Right? And then I'm like, later on, maybe I'll swipe down again and go into the specific ones to see, because unless somebody is really dying.
Yeah.
And honestly, like nothing is ever too important in your life that you must respond to it immediately.
Right.
There are very few things. I mean, I want to say nothing. There are very few things in life that you must attend to immediately.
Yeah.
Right. The most colorful analogy I recently thought of was watching some animal documentary was that like our ancestors grew up being cavemen.
Yeah.
Right. So we had a lot of animals to hunt and kill, and so we had all the energy, to hunt them. But nowadays we don't have any more animals to hunt, but we still have the same kind of like animalistic brain,
Yeah.
ancient brain that we had. And so this conveys into anger, right? This conveys into aggression, and we have nowhere to actually kind of like dispense it. So it's actually important for us to learn how to dispense with such energies sometimes.
Yeah.
How to dispel that anger, right? Because we have evolved, and so we must learn how to say no sometimes and resist our impulses and our instincts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned animals. So it's almost like we're, like a large dog in a small house, we have to walk it every day in the morning. If not, it's going to destroy the house.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing here is that like these days our instinct to react
Yeah.
constantly all the time is triggered so often
Right.
that we are almost always in hunting mode. We are like, okay, well, this thing threatens my survival. I gotta respond to it right away.
Yeah.
I gotta respond to this straight away, and then your brain gets used to responsiveness, so that everything it comes, you are trying to respond to it.
Yeah.
This really almost triggers your it is almost automatic. So then your brain cannot handle being reactive the entire day. So you rely on bias.
Yeah.
You rely on certain automatic behaviors. So then you can begin to you can begin to clear as many tasks as possible, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you use your your brain is trying to look for shortcuts. Your brain is very good at finding hacks as well, right? You see a person of a particular color, you see a person use a particular word, you're like, oh, okay, I think this person, you go back, your brain goes back, finds a pattern, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to respond the same way I did for the last time,
Yeah.
right? You don't really pause to think and appreciate the gravity of the situation, right? Before you think, okay, I think this situation merits a little bit more time to think about it. And that's the issue of a very reactive world today,
Yeah.
whereby every single message that comes in, you're easily triggered. It's like, I don't like the way you say things. Why don't you put an emoji? Or why do you put everything in caps? I don't like you. We can be very quick to judge.
Yeah.
And I think that is the pitfalls of a 24/7 type of culture where we are always on and we feel that we must respond to every single message seconds within them coming.
Yeah.
And it's a very long way and long-winded way of saying that's why I never really check my phone the entire time. That's why I'm always on D&D. Yeah.
Well, that's a great thing. I'm definitely going to practice that as well. But how do you determine what is more important than others?
So I have two periods of time in the day whereby I'm super reactive.
Yeah.
And I'm super responsive. And then during the rest of the time, I basically just go on D&D.
Okay.
Right, because I have meetings and so on. Same thing, right? I mean, right, let's say, for example, you're in a meeting with your boss or you're in a meeting with somebody that works with you, that reports to you. You're going to be devoting your entire time to that person. So let's say our usual meetings is 1 hour.
Yeah.
During that 1 hour, are you checking your phone?
No.
Yeah. So same thing, right? If you apply the same rule to when you're working, let's say, for example, you got an immediate report that you need to submit. And whether it could be anyone, right?
Yeah.
During that 1 hour, you got to respect that work. You got to respect yourself. You're not going to be checking your messages all the time. Not every piece of work takes 1 hour. Sometimes it takes maybe 2 hours. So then you respect your time, you respect your work, and then you put your phone aside, you cast aside distractions, just like how you would treat a person that you're working with during a meeting. You don't check your phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I bring that attitude over. So I am most reactive early at the start of the day when for these 2 hours, you know what? I'm super responsive.
Yeah.
Right. And then after that, I don't look at it anymore. Right. Maybe I'll look at it after every few hours. Right. And then at the end of the day, I'm being responsive again. I'll respond to everything. I'll be very quick and so on. And then once I'm done with those few hours, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to get my dinner and go see my family. And I'm not going to be so reactive. It's just learning to switch off. And I think that's super important. The problem is that some people expect you to be responsive throughout the day. And I think that's incredible. That's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think, say you are a super important CEO. I don't think we can be responsive throughout the day. There must be downtime whereby you are not expected to respond. Maybe some CEOs have secretaries. But like for those of us like you and me that cannot afford secretaries, human secretaries, because nowadays we have bots, right?
Yeah.
You cannot afford human secretaries. We have to perform like a high-performing CEO as well, whereby we need some time to really think and let our brain rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how do you say no to those who demand your time and they think like you really have to be responsive like during, because I assume that might be a cause of stress for you as well, or anger since you mentioned it.
Yeah. No, I try to first I try not to show my anger to them.
Yeah,
I try to deal with it myself first, and then I'll have a chat with them and try to talk about like I try to get them to speak about their own working styles, right? So I get them to say, hey, it seems like you expect me to respond no matter what time it is. I really admire how you do it. Can you share a secret?
Okay.
So you respect them, you praise them first,
Yeah.
and then ask them to share with you. Maybe they have something that I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? But it helps to just respect them and give them the benefit of the doubt. But most of the times when I ask, they find that they have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Then they will understand where I'm coming from. Hopefully. This works 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Right? But it's better than 0%.
Of course. Yeah.
Right?
But that's the other 50%. Is it backfire or they just act blur?
They could act blur.
Yeah.
Right? And then it just tells you, okay, well, at least you know 50% where they are coming from and so on. And they are just not aware. Yeah. Right? So if they're not aware, the thing here is that I have the benefit of working for myself, and I will try to adjust right? And I'll try to set some rules. Actually, for the other 50%, I try to set some rules and say, I'm sorry, but on some days, I just simply am not able to deal with you during these hours.
Yeah.
But if you want to get hold of me, call me twice. Otherwise, try to get me between these times. So I move them to my peak hours. Try to get me between, say, 9 to 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Or maybe say 5 to 6 p.m.
Yeah.
When I typically may not have meetings, and hence I'll be more responsive to you.
Right.
So then I move them there, and it's okay, I kind of get it. Okay, but I really need something, you to answer your phone sometime between 2 to 3 p.m. If you tell me a specific time, I will be responsive. So give me heads up.
Yeah.
But don't expect me to be always checking my phone waiting for your message.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a very 50-50 contract lah. So you tell them I'm available this time, and so when you call me, I will always answer. So it's in a sense that when you give them the time, how religious are you at making sure you answer their call?
Yeah. Yes.
So I suppose this is, I mean, we could go on and on, but
Please,
I'm also
please, yes,
mindful of your time.
No worries. No worries. Yeah.
It's interesting because knowing what you know, and what would the Bjorn of today ask the Bjorn of, or tell the Bjorn of however many years ago, who was just getting started in the startup world, so that he would see a little bit more success or happiness, or however you choose to define your success. What would you tell him?
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know if I actually went back in time and told 10, 15-year younger version of myself, the 21-year younger version of myself. I don't know whether that person will listen to me.
Okay, but let's assume he did.
Assume he did.
What? Okay, actually, it doesn't matter whether he listens or not, right? What would you think would be so valuable for him to know that you would give him that extra edge over the person
when I was 21, I saw this quote, "Youth is wasted on the young," and I thought it was bullshit. And to me in my mind, right, 21 was like yesterday. Still, right?
Nice.
I don't know how you are, but you start thinking time flies really fast.
Yeah,
right?
It does.
But if I assume a more receptive, open-minded version of myself when I was 21, I will be telling them that if you continue on a current path, you're gonna be having chest pains, a spinal column with leaking vertebra, spinal disease. This is what I have today. And your health will suffer. Your hamstrings will be tight. You probably spend thousands of dollars just seeing the doctor. And on some days, you will find that you're unable to work because you're just in too much pain. And I hope that person will listen.
Right.
Because that's what I deal with now. Because I did not really respect my own body and my mind when I was younger. I would try to listen if I was back then, right? But I would try to say that, sometimes you must learn how to say no. Don't say yes to everything.
Yeah. But why do you say you wouldn't have listened? What would have prevented you from absorbing such?
When you are young, you tend to think you're Superman, Superwoman, right? You think you can do everything. And you are like, I'll worry about that when I'm older.
Yeah.
There's the lack of that maturity of mind to think 10 years ahead. Because when let's say you're 21, you've only experienced 20 years of a, say, 80-year life.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot to go with. But when you are, say, nearing 40, like me, you can see that I have 40 years of experience, 39 years of experience behind me. You can see what the next 40 years could look like because you can nearly see the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And the tunnel is not light. It's darkness, right? You can see your mortality. And when you can see that mortality pass by, well, man, I sound really old saying all this kind of stuff, right? Because in my mind, I'm still thinking of 21 yesterday, right?
Yeah.
When I was younger, I wouldn't appreciate that because you don't have much to go with.
Yeah.
You only have what older people tell you. So in those days, I actually had mentors who told me those things, and I just didn't appreciate that. It's tough. I mean, it's really hard to say that even if I go speak to the youth today, and even if we get very senior people to speak to them today, it's not a guarantee that people will listen. They really have to sometimes experience it for yourself, get more exposure, and it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? It is possible. to try various ways to get the same message through in different manners.
Yeah.
One thing I really like is role playing. And I read this recently in this book called Mindfulness by a Harvard professor.
Yeah.
I forgot her name, but we can check.
Yeah,
it
we
and you
can check
put
it later.
into
No
into
worries.
it.
Yeah.
But it's called Counterclockwise. The book Mindfulness and Counterclockwise is written by the same Harvard professor.
Got it.
Right. And what she did to make young people understand what the elderly went through on a daily basis, and it's also the part of a Channel News Asia documentary as well, is that they put on prosthetics for them. They made them wear certain clothing, and they had certain straps for them that makes them move slower. That they give them certain kind of glasses so that they had poorer vision. They stuff earbuds in their ears to simulate what they'll be hearing at what their hearing range will be at say 70 or 80 years old. And they get them to just conduct the same things they do in their daily lives. That kind of role playing was real. And I think that was a hack, a real shortcut to teaching empathy. Because if you ask me, like right now at 40, at 39, to imagine what somebody 69 or 79, 89 would be experiencing, I wouldn't know too. I probably have, say, 60, 70% of the same arrogance to, I don't know. You cannot visualize it. You don't get enough exposure there, right? So I think it's really important to really find innovative ways to expose somebody younger or somebody older to like different ways and schools of thought.
Yeah. I really love that. I think I'm just gonna practice that for myself as well. And I actually remember this so vividly. And thanks for sharing so openly this, because I was thinking back to when people used to ask about my like failed suicide attempt. They would always ask like, what does it feel like? And I always say like it's almost impossible to explain. But what I will say, right, is that it makes you understand really how mortal you are,
Yeah.
because like you start to realize that you can just take your own life away in a second. So imagine how easy it is for accidents to happen, and you
Yeah.
don't even have that choice,
Yes,
to
yes.
choose whether you want to live or not.
Yeah.
So I don't know. In a sense, that really resonated with me. So I don't know. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
That line is actually very thin, right? I mean, I haven't had I don't think I've had a proper suicide attempt.
Yeah.
But I can be very creative. So
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm in a very dangerous situation, I always think, what if I do this? And then
Right.
I'll visualize it, and like, oh wow, that's scary. So I've had those visualizations, but I don't think they count as that, right?
Well, in some ways it does, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you thought about it, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I really don't know.
There's this, I went for a Vipassana retreat.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think some people may have gone for a 10-day Vipassana
Yeah.
meditation retreat.
Me too. I went for
it?
Sri Lanka.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Sri Lanka. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
It's a beautiful
My friends
place.
went to Sri Lanka.
It's a nice place. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed my time. It was very difficult.
Mine
though.
was in India.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, northern
Awesome.
India. It was cold. I love it. But I think in Goenka, this video towards the end by the teacher, Goenka, he talks about teaching mindfulness to a prison, right? And he said that he told the prison warden, the main warden, that he will only teach mindfulness to the inmates if all the staff went through it first. And the staff revolted against the idea. They did not want to. They say, "I'm not the one that needs this."
Yeah.
Right? But when they actually eventually caved and they went through it, they realized that everybody can be a criminal. The only difference between the wardens, the staff, and the inmates is that the inmates acted on the same thoughts. Because every single warden had those thoughts as well.
Right.
And you talk about this suicide, and I'm sure some of us who can be creative can be imagining, what if I take the wrong step as well? The only difference is whether you acted on it,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's an actual suicide or whether it's an attempt and actually planning it out.
Yeah.
It can be very easy to actually switch over to that kind of thinking.
Right.
But the only difference is such a fine line, right? Going back to your point.
It's funny. I mean, it seems like we veered off a little, but I want to bring it back because
Sure.
there's this great line that I heard watching this TV show on HBO quite some time ago called How to Make It in America. I don't know whether you've heard of
I
it.
heard of it.
Oh yeah. It's so he because we are discussing mortality and giving advice. There's this great line that I tend to remember because I'm always trying to create stuff as well. And he said, when you're young, you have a lot of time but no money. When you're old, you have money but no time.
That's right.
And he says like you just either find a partner who can be that synergy for you, or you find a way to balance it where you're okay, going at a slower pace.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a great quote.
It is a great quote. It's a great quote. You see a lot of people making up for lost time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, final parting words. I also want to give people a chance to check out this Mindfi app.
Yep.
If they are interested in, learning about mindfulness or using an app to really enable that mindfulness part of themselves, how can they get a hold of it? And also, if they want to reach you, how can they do so?
Sure. Well, they can just go to www.mindfi, mindfi.co, and then they can check out what the app is about. We don't just serve companies, but we also serve consumers as well. So it is an app that allows you to learn to practice mindfulness even with your eyes open, which means that it's very easy to integrate in your daily life, right? And to get a hold of me, you just need to email Bjorn, my name, I think is inside the description, at mindfi.co. If you just use the contact us, like an email inside the app, I'm usually the first person responding to it.
Sweet. Okay. Well, very hands-on.
Very hands-on still. During those 2 peak hours.
Those 2 peak.
Those 2 peak hour periods. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Bjorn, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this chat.
Likewise, I enjoyed it too.
Yeah, and all the best with Mindfi. It's such a good platform.
Thank you so much. Yeah, all the best with Echo Academy too.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah.